What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And it's been a little while since we've done a community feedback here on the channel. We thought we'd bring it back in a fun and an interesting way. So we've been posting polls up in the community tab here on YouTube. If you guys are a part of any live stream, you can always use the command poll to get the link and go vote in these polls. But we also have comment sections on this. So we're going to dive into y'all's comments, get your thoughts. And today's topic, it's a pretty big one. It's what do you want to see in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker that has the most change to the core gameplay loop. And we got some really good options. But first, I have a plug. I've been working on a parent's guide. It's a YouTube channel focusing around guides for parents, especially as it relates to games. This is anything dealing with Nintendo. This is like your managing of your systems. Are these games safe for kids? Top link in the description. I've actually almost hit the watch time requirement. So I just need to get over 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys can hit that subscribe button, whether you want to watch the content or not, but if you are a parent or thinking about becoming one, that's a new channel that I've actually been working on, typically quietly. You've seen a couple of things, maybe a link pop up here and there in chat and more. But regardless, Chris, dude, I've monologued for a little bit in the intro of this.
No, 1,000 subscribers is big because it unlocks some features on the back end. It unlocks the ability for him to tag other creators so that if he references something, you can click that and go straight in the link. It lets us tag him.
Mm-hmm.
So it unlocks the last of the features. After that, we don't really ever have to ask for subs again. After that, only sub if you want to, no worries. But that's the one area that when a creator asks, it's unlocking features that YouTube has using that for verification. So I got a phrase that I got to get to, but let's dive in to the poll here. What do you want to see Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker change most about the core game?
And so the options that we had and that were listed were, it's all about the jobs. It's all about the jobs. That's what people are most excited about. Bigger raids, bringing on Ultimate and more Savage. More housing, looking forward to housing updates. Refreshing the core endgame experience, which that's a whole topic. It's a whole monster week of endgame discussion in and of itself, and others comments below. And we got over 61 comments. We're not going to dive into each and every one of the comments here today, so you don't end up having like a 2-hour hey, community feed came back with a 3-hour video. But if nothing else, guys, be sure to hit those like buttons on those polls. It helps us increase the reach, which gives us more data that we can kind of compile and bring to you guys for these videos themselves. Chris, what would you vote for? So, what would you vote for in this list? Or what would you add in the other comment below at 5%?
I think you have to refresh the in-game experience. I think it's the thing that's going to have the longest lasting tail out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimates and Savages are really expensive for how quickly we go through them. I'd love to see it. New jobs are fun, but ultimately you end up maining one or two. And so you main one or two now, you're going to main one or two then. So you're just swapping them out. And you're creating a problem with, I kind of get nervous about them continuing to add jobs to the game because at some point that starts to become a tax on, I can't design content. I can't design interesting 4-man dungeons because every dungeon has to be clearable by every comp. And because we've got 82 jobs in the game, I really can't go that far left or right because it would accidentally make the groups really bad if they got this healer or this tank or whatever.
What expansion would be on if we had 84?
Housing is its own mess. I'm 55 hours into my exploration of what it means to click on a sign. And I am going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of discovering what I do and don't like about myself as a human as it becomes this deeply inward experience of, am I insane?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Guys, so if you don't see these polls, you can always find them on our community tab and be on the lookout for them because the goal is to be able to bring this style of video for you because a lot of the times here on the channel, you get both Chris and I's opinion and we engage with you guys in the comments, but I think this is a good way to kind of balance it out. And honestly, I am not surprised by the results of this poll whatsoever. 46% talking about refreshing the endgame experience. I feel like we do get a wide range of people, a part of this community here on Work to Game, from the Sprout all the way to the veteran. But even still, when it comes down to it, if you've already experienced an expansion, and this is just my personal take on it, if you were in the end game for Heaven's Word or Stormblood or even Shadowbringers, at some point, you get into the end game of Endwalker and you're going to be like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So now as to what that means, we'll dive into people's comments and get some thoughts there. And then the second number one here at 26%, all about the new jobs. Jobs, even though, 86 is a lot, we would probably be into Final Fantasy XIV, version 20, or Final Fantasy 20 at that point, before we have that many jobs. But jobs do bring a fun, unique perspective, and honestly, I think it gives them, especially with Sage, gives us the ability to kind of maybe look at a role as opposed to like a specific job. I look at the excitement of how is healing going to function in
I don't think you have
Endwalker.
to add more jobs to make healing more interesting.
All right. So with that, those are just kind of our thoughts. Let's dive into y'all's comments here. Hector says, I'm hoping the island becomes an instance housing where people were asked for, and also that that they have changes to the classes that makes them more interesting right from the low level. Speaking of that low level, Chris and I just had our video for Friday talk kind of about that. But Chris, what do you think about the island instant housing?
First of all, with the media tour of Shadowbringers, there was a mention that they would be adding farming to the game. That is what the Island Sanctuary is going to be. That's going to release next expansion, as many things that did not make it to Shadowbringers. Maybe it was never intended to. Maybe it was. It wasn't on the announced list of things delayed because it wasn't on the announced list of things coming until they started to tell us what was in the expansion. It is instanced. It is a place that I believe at this point they've confirmed your friends won't be able to visit yours. At least that's not the way it's being designed at the start. The number one reason that people say that they want a house that holds water for me, that's not just cosmetic or because I want one, is Thavnarian onions. Thavnarian onions upgrade your chocobos max level. Thavnarian onions are very expensive. Go look at the price of the seeds. There's not a cheap way to get them. And the only way to grow your own is to have access to a house. And so you can't have a gardening plot tied to an apartment. You can't have a gardening plot tied to a free company solo bedroom. And so there's just no way for somebody to reliably get access to growing their own Thavnarian onions. And I hope that this fixes that. Another thing that housing does is we have the ability to interior decorate our own apartment and our own free company room. So we have room for our interior decorations. Could we use more? Could we use different size apartments? Sure. But we have a base level there. What we don't have is anywhere to use outdoor furnishings. The number of furnishings continually added to this game, almost every single patch, there's an entire section of the live letter around what's getting added to the game cosmetically for this content that 6 people have access to. And that's really frustrating when it's outdoor items that you really want, when the Namatsu gives you the big fire thing or whatever you're excited about. And I hope that Island Sanctuaries will help close that up. Hoping that Island Sanctuaries close the gap on saying, okay, right now there's 10,000 people that want a house on my server that can't get one. Can we bring that down to 8, 7? Like, I know it's not going to zero it out. Can we cut that number down by some substantial fraction? And I think that would be something that could make a huge difference. And then as we talk about skill bloat, which we just talked about, making classes more interesting prior to level 50, prior to level 30, prior to completion, going back and making sure, especially when you think about somebody coming over from Guild Wars, coming over from WoW, coming over from, playing Final Fantasy games, they have RPG experience or more specifically MMORPG experience. And the global cooldown with the lack of off globals and, all of the skills we pruned from over the years, typically being from older content, makes that a really slow experience. New players, some of them might be okay with it because it's all so new, but to players that have some experience, they very quickly outpace the rate at which the game is willing to let you learn. And I would love to see that addressed for new players. They already have to clear 300 hours of story. Let's not make them do it with only one ability on the bar.
How awesome would it be to sit down, and recommend, like, to be able to address combat is so slow, and to sit here and say, like,
to apologize to.
Come
on over and join me.
Yeah.
Can I apologize on the front end?
Can I apologize right at the start? And there's definitely, like, I've seen people say that they love it, they love the pacing, and I get it that, that's definitely, that viewpoint is expressed. At least in my, experience, it is often that people struggle with the speed of combat, especially as it's changed. Like, if I go back all the way to ARR, combat didn't feel that slow because it felt like we had a lot more going on our abilities. In fact, I struggled as a controller player to figure it out. That's one of the reasons why Work to Game exists, because people started saying, like, how are you playing this game on controller? And I would just put together these guides because I had to do macros and things like that. It wasn't the most efficient, but it was more comfortable to play the game and have that experience overall. And so it's like at its core, I would love to sit back and say, guys, like not only is it the quest thing, but if the combat just is like fast and in your face, and you got a lot of things that you can kind of do, so you're not pressing one button, two buttons, three buttons, and that's it. And you're like, is this all there is? And we're going, no, we promise you, it's not. Without sacrificing level 80, level 90, which we covered in a whole topic just today. But and you have another thought because I was going to go to Willie's.
Yeah,
comment.
no. I think that to keep this moving, as I scroll through these, we've got Willie, Taco, Norm, John. As I jump down this, Yulia, Yulina, all saying. I mean, there's more. Savnir. They're all actually hitting on the same point. More elaborate 4-man dungeon content.
Mm-hmm.
That could be everything from Mythic Plus to unreeling the old ones to making them more challenging, making them more diverse. Something to make small man content more intriguing for a longer curve than do I need tomes this week?
Right. The tomes this week, especially when you've seen that, again, refining that endgame experience as a part of this option, is that I look at it and I go, well, I know because I've done this rodeo before, I don't need to put a lot of time and effort into it until the point 4. Now I've been gearing up. I'm, in the 520s and 530s on certain slots. Obviously knowing that none of the gear necessarily matters because I'm not trying to do Ultimate. I'm not trying to do Savage. If that changes my whole approach. But that aspect I think would be exciting. So, and that's where when you and I have been doing duos in Palace of the Dead, like that's where this is exciting. That's where like we're finding and making our own fun in the sandbox that is 14. And I'd love to see them kind of like bring something like that back or whatever comes next to utilize everything that's created. Like even as a template to say, we're going to take this next floor as this section of this dungeon that you haven't been in for years. Oh my gosh, is that Diabolos? Oh yeah, it is, because we decided to throw them at you. Just like we're just here to mess with you and just like have these kind of like, oh my gosh moments. But the other side of Willie, and also Willie, thanks so much for the support, being a member over on Work to Game. You could start at $1. Like it's low. We said it's super low. So if anybody wants to be a part of that and have some emotes, check it out. But anyway, he also talks about open world exploration. And that's where I think with Eureka and with even Bozia, like they're doing some interesting systems that I would love to see brought in to 14. Now, what I'm about to say is I think a lot of work, and I don't think this is going to happen for Endwalker. But when I go into Guild Wars and you are on a different server and I'm on a different server and it just handles it, it doesn't matter outside of like one specific mode. It doesn't matter. I want that. And that's where I think when we talk about the open world content, I think they can bring more to the open world content. They're afraid to because they don't want to have to make content that people can't do because you're on one server and you're on another server and no one is actually really interested in doing it outside of 50 people, and then they design content that nobody does because that's the worst. Like sitting down and saying like, hey, God, that was a really cool idea and nobody did it because they had to organize something more. But that's why the instant server works for Eureka and for Bozia because it just makes sure that everybody on the data center gets funneled into the same area and that it's balanced appropriately. But the critical engagements is so cool, and I would love to see them bring critical engagements into Endwalker's just basic zone design. That would be a change that I'd love to see. Anyway, that's my
there's
thought.
big things there. I mean, the Glacier's asking for open world PvP. Will's asking for why can't we fly our airships in the open world. There's a number of things we could ask for, but I think it comes down more to Aaron saying like, I wish there was an actual grind worth doing after the MSQ. And so I think the open world is an opportunity where when I'm playing Guild Wars 2 and my buddy says, hey, I'm not going to be on for another 30 minutes. It's too short to go do a dungeon. It's too short to queue for PvP. It's too short, but it's too long to just sit there and manage my retainers. And open world content is that thing that slides in there where I can just work towards something. In WoW, like World Quests gets a bad rap because we find ourselves dumping ourselves into it for 50 million hours. But for I've got 30 minutes to burn, they're shockingly good at filling that time. It's something that spreads and fills, and it matters a little, but ideally it's something that's tuned in a way where it doesn't matter to the point that we hate it. And so I think that that's something that open world content could be better at. But I think that moves us into usually in game starts to then focus on, okay, is it merely cosmetic or utilitarian? And that moves into the last most common thing that I'm seeing. I don't know which comment you grabbed, but Bisbee with hoping there's more than 400 glam slots is the top one I see. And I see Black saying more glamour, Randy saying more glamour. Just like as I scroll down, it's just glamour, glamour, glamour,
but
glamour.
On that note, like let's take that Aaron's comment and let's marry that with Bisbee. Like, why not? Okay, yeah, you want more glam slots? What if there was some open world thing with the gemstones or whatever that you grinded, and then all of a sudden you get another 100 things? Like, take the content that we have and use it to give it to people that they want. One of the things that really frustrated me about Anthem, there's a lot of things, but one of the core things was they did a patch, and in that patch they made it to where everybody could fly further, cool, didn't overheat as far, and all, like the nice little quality of life. And I go, this is an RPG. Why isn't that a quest? Why isn't that when I could grind that out and then I could unlock that? Like I have no issue with quality of life. I tend to like it if that there's something that's connected to it, like go and do an extra level. And we've talked about, like, we'll just keep calling them glamour levels because Paragon people, like there's so many different systems where this is already in place in video games. So I'm just going to keep calling that in 14's case. But imagine saying, oh, you want another 100 slots? Like, okay, go do this or go do this, or take these achievement points that you're just sitting on top of and you got nothing to spend on it, and drive it into the game itself. So that way it becomes something earnable. Like, oh, how did you get 1,000 glamour slots? Oh man, what a grind that was.
Yep. And complete your orchestron scrolls.
Yeah.
All of them.
Go.
Oh, I don't even use those.
Exactly.
But I'll go get them. What do they drop from? Well, they drop from different bosses. Some actually drop just the material so that you have to craft one.
Yeah.
Oh. So I have to find an alchemist?
Yeah.
No, it's actually really easy to level your own alchemist. And now you're deep into alchemist, you're deep into orchestron scrolls, and it's all some rabbit hole you dive down to get 200 more or 100 more or 10 more glamour slots in your dresser.
Right, and not to sit here and just rip that stuff away from people, not to say, oh, you have 200? Okay, we're going to start everybody at 50. No. Like, give everybody a lot. And then if you want more, then utilizing the core content this game has. I think it's 200, and then maybe like I don't glamour that much, so it's like
I think we're at 400. I think we're at a massive number.
They did expand it. They did give us more plates. Like they have given us these things, and then I'm just saying, like, the core content in 14. Yeah, Liquid is saying that it is 400. I love doing things live because then sometimes it's like, wait a minute, I think this is the case.
I think it's 400, so it's already a big number.
Yeah.
But how do we get it to 500?
Right.
Can you lock 10 behind an achievement tied to Golden Saucer? Can you lock 10 more behind an achievement tied to crafting? Can you get 10 more?
You don't even have to tie it to a specific type of content, because those achievement points, just like any currency, you want to go get achievement points for this, and then that is it.
You could just
it's faster if you go get some of those easier achievement points, right? Like all of a sudden, like low hanging fruit, you just need 5. Go make 5. Go cook 5 eggs. Oh, there you go. Like that's inherent into the system itself. And
No, I think the perfect example is that you called me. You called me the other day because you were making Gil. You made a guide over on Ginger Prime about the cookie leaf.
Yeah.
And we were talking. I was driving somewhere, and you were like, "Yeah," and I'm doing all this crafting, but I'm having trouble optimizing a macro. And I said, "Okay, well, I can work through a macro with you if you don't want to use one of the websites. Do you have manipulation unlocked?" And you said, "What's manipulation?" I said, "Well, you have to have done all your job quests on each crafter through level 65. And you go, "Oh, I haven't done that. Is that important?" I said, "Well, manipulation actually basically effectively cuts the amount of durability you're going to be using for each craft for several steps. And so it lets you get a lot more guaranteed quality in the same number of steps." And so it makes your macros a lot more powerful if you're not going to be manually playing to take advantage of conditions. I could go do that. Okay, well, just a heads up, I did all mine in one sitting and it was like 20 hours. Okay, I'm going to go do that. It gave you a reason to do something that is not new.
Mm-hmm.
It is not meaningful. It is not required. It is yours to do whenever you want, at any pace. You never have to do it. You can always do it. It's your thing that you never did because you never had a reason. But now because you want money for a gilded mount, you started doing cookie leaves, which made you then go on this journey to go explore a piece of content that you otherwise might have just left undone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Super cool.
When you look at the core game within 14, there is so much there already. And I think what veterans want is that they want that to have some level of interest or value. One of the coolest things is that when I run a roulette, which I rarely do, like if they're like outside of leveling and like XP, like when it comes to endgame tomes, I don't find a lot of, I don't find myself spending a lot of time in the expert roulette anymore. And that's just my nature with the game. And so then tying that completely back into the core game itself, like, why would I go and do that? Like, why would I go and run this? And when you do get one of those dungeons, when I go get one of those dungeons here in Endwalker, when I'm doing the leveling process again, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be refreshing. And I love that aspect. And I just wish that had some carrying on value. And I think that's where, when we look at the poll results, 46% out of over 1,400 of you voted say that you want kind of a refreshed endgame experience. And the goal isn't to make endgame suck away your life. It's just to sit here and say, like, guys, you're sitting on this mountain of awesome stuff. Like, this is some really cool stuff. What can we do to refresh that? And who knows?
Yes. But I think an example, to just kind of interrupt with an example,
please.
Is that gilded mounts, a lot of people said, I don't care about mounts, or I don't care about gil. Because of gilded mounts, just to kind of show what that means, my previous example means that Brian gained a refreshed in-game experience. Brian gained job quests for crafters because of gilded mounts.
Right.
So when people go, well, why are they even added those? Who cares about those? Okay, what if we come at it from another angle? Does that add, so can we add more content to endgame that is not just itself? Can we double, triple, quadruple dip here where we add one piece of content and it causes players to ripple into other content? It's what Unreal does. Unreal gets people seeing things and going, oh, wow, I remember these fights. I don't have all my extreme ponies. Those can be soloed now. Oh, I'm going to go solo a bunch of old trials. Now you've added something to the game without adding anything to the game.
Right. 100%. Dude, 100%. And I think that's what I think that the poll reflects. And I think that with the fact that Gilded Mounts came in as a final thought for me, is that the dev team is listening. Like they said that we know we need more reasons to have Gil have value. And Yoshi P keeps hearing this feedback. So just keep providing it. And, it's over time. Hopefully we can get and have those pieces of content work. I think with Endwalker kind of finishing off the saga, hopefully that gives them a lot of energy to sit here and say, like, well, now that we're not having to worry about this, like, what happens? What transpires? What's this power vacuum? What's this? What's happening with this? And maybe does that change? How does that change our relationship with the planet, with the Eorzea, with the nations and things like that? So it should be, honestly, I'm very excited to see where this ultimately goes.
Yeah, they're trying things.
Yeah, so
they do listen.
I did not catch a hidden phrase. So
I forgot.
I was like, I didn't catch any hidden phrase, but daggone, I was like, that's good.
I forgot.
No, that's good. Okay, we'll save that hidden phrase for another day.
I got another one.
It's kind of funny. Guys, be sure to be tuning in Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I've been taking over Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2 to 5, where we film these live at twitch.tv/work2game. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. For Work2Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. We hope to see you in our next one. But until then,
take care.